Welcome to the 3D printing module. My name is Jeff Abel. I'm an engineering and ECAD instructor at Century College. The objective of this training module is to take an individual with no previous experience and give them enough knowledge to be able to print basic 3D parts. For more information regarding the Fab Lab at Century College, please visit the website century.edu/FabLab. For more information regarding the 3D printing process, please consider taking the class ECAD 1025, How to Make Almost Anything. Let's go over the general process used to print a 3D part. We're not going to talk about the specific machines, but go over a general overview of the process. The first step in printing a 3D part is to have an electronic part file that you want to print. This is an STL file type. This is typically created in a CAD design software package like SolidWorks, Inventor, or Creo. It can also be created in a creative design software package like Mudbox, 3ds Max, or Rhino. This part file will be loaded into the printer control software for the specific 3D printer. Once the part is loaded, the size and orientation needs to be configured. Then the print parameters need to be set. This includes the print density and layer resolution. Then the part is ready to be added to the pack or print job. Before we print, the printer needs to be set. This includes making sure the printer is on, initialize the printer, loading the print tray, and making sure that there's enough print material for the job. At this point, the part can be printed. Once the part is complete, the print tray can be removed from the printer. The part needs to be carefully removed from the print tray. The support material needs to be removed from the part. What you're left with is your final 3D printed part. The Afinia is a budget 3D printer. The main difference between the Afinia and the Dimension is that the Afinia has a smaller print area and can only feed one type of material. Both work with ABS and PLA plastics. Next, we'll talk about the step-by-step procedure for using the Afinia 3D printer. First thing we need to do is to log into the computer connected to the Afinia printer. Once you've logged into the machine, we're going to start the printer software for the Afinia. The Afinia software is the 3D Afinia, and we'll just double click on the icon and it will load. Once the screen comes up, we'll load our STL file. It is preferred that you keep your STL file on a flash drive for loading. In this case, to load our STL file, we'll go up to File, Open, and then we're going to navigate to our STL file. In this case, I have my file, the letter T. Click on that and say Open. It is then going to load the file into our display area. You can see the part has come into place, but it's not in the correct orientation. So we need to set the orientation of our part and place it into the print. We can visually see the size of the part, and we'll have to verify that it's the correct size. Beyond that, we're going to rotate this part up so the T is standing up. And to do that, at the top, we're going to click on the Rotate button. Once we click on the Rotate, we need to come over and set the degrees. This, by default, comes up to be 90 degrees. And then we need to go around which axis. And the axis is shown in the lower left-hand corner here, X, Y, and Z. So in this case, to rotate this part up, we need to rotate 90 degrees about the Y-axis. So I'm going to click on that button, and it rotates it up. I now have my part in the correct orientation, so I'm going to place it onto the print. And up on the top, we're going to click on the place, and it will put it onto the printer, or onto the print tray in the correct orientation. Now that the part is ready to be sent to the printer, we need to make sure the Afinia printer is ready to go. First thing we need to do is turn it on. The switch is in back, flip it on, the light will come on in front. Once the power is on, we need to initialize it. So we're going to push and hold the button here until it beeps. We'll release it. It's going to go through an initialization mode. So the tray will move up and down. Now the initialization is complete. Next, we want to make sure we have enough material. The material is loaded on the side roll here. The material does come up around and into the printer head. If for some reason this material is not attached to the printer head, or there's not a material here or enough material, please see the lab manager and he will help get the material loaded. Next, we need to load our print tray. The print trays here are reusable. We use the same couple trays for each print. So first thing we're going to want to do is make sure that the top and bottom surfaces are clean. So we'll just take our scraper and just run it over the top surface. Sometimes we'll have residual material left on there. And we also want to check the back surface because sometimes the material will squeeze through the holes. Once we've scraped that off, we'll want to scoop up any material that's come off and throw that into the garbage can. Now, once we have our print tray ready to be loaded, the print tray has a notch in the back, and that goes towards the back. So we want to make sure we get it in the correct orientation. And we have springs that are used to hold the print tray down. So what we'll do is we'll actually place it down and we'll slide the print tray underneath the rear 4 springs. Then we can use our pair of pliers to load the top 4. With all the springs on, the print tray is now all set. Now that the printer is ready, now we need to send our file to the printer. To do that, we go up to the File menu and click on 3D Print and come down to the Print command. This will bring up a printer window. In this window, we're going to set our printer parameters. We do that by clicking on Preferences. And now we're going to have our print parameters come up. Main thing that we need here is our Z resolution. This is going to identify how fine of print resolution we're going to get. If we click on the down arrow, we have some default commands in here. Anywhere from 0.15 millimeters all the way up to 0.4. So if you have a lot of detail, use the finer. If you have a part that you want to print faster, you can use the larger. In this case, I'm going to use 0.15 as my default. The next one that we're most concerned with is the fill. So what is the interior of that part going to be filled with? This first one is solid, and then there's 3 different shades of densities, going from more dense to less dense. In this case, you can choose one of these first ones. Either if you want it solid for strength, or the lower densities just to reduce the amount of material that you use. We'll neglect the shell and the surface options at this point. The part, we're just going to leave this as our default. Our support will also be leaving as default. So we're going to then just go through here. We can say OK. Now that we have our print parameters set, the only thing here is some options. We're going to leave this unsolid unchecked, no raft unchecked. Quality, you can set normal, fast, or fine, whichever you would like in here. This will just change the speed in which it prints. We're going to say normal. Heat platform after finish, we'll leave that at no. Now that we're all ready, we're going to send it to the printer, and we're going to say press OK. Once we press OK, it will then send all of the layers. It'll process all the layers, and then it'll send all of those layers to the printer itself. You'll see the light flashing on the front of the printer, showing that it is accepting this data. It will then send all the layer information to the printer. You'll see the light flashing on the front, indicating the printer is receiving the information. Once the printer has received all the information, there'll be a window that comes up that'll tell you how long it'll take for the printer to print. Just say 27 minutes, say OK. Now at this point, the head and the bed need to warm up, so it won't necessarily start printing right away. But if the head and the bed is warm from a previous print, it may start up quicker than this. Now that the part is done printing, we need to remove the part in the tray from the printer. We'll grab our pliers and we'll remove the 4 springs again on the front. We can then slide the tray out. Now we have the tray and our part. Now we need to remove the part from the tray, and we'll do that at the workbench. Again, what we need is our safety glasses, we need our putty knife, and we need our bench hook. Now the way that we'll remove this part is that we'll actually place it flat on our bench hook here. We'll take our putty knife and we'll work it right at the base of our part, and we'll push on it and work our way around. This sometimes takes a little bit of time, but you want to work that around, and eventually this will pop all the way off. And now we have our part removed off of the tray, and our raft has actually come off already. So we can throw this right into the garbage. Now we need to remove all the support material from our part. This will use our pair of pliers. We'll just grab it, and it should be fairly fragile, so it'll come off pretty easily. And we'll just work our way through all of our material here. All right. Now that we've got all of our support material removed, congratulations, you have your finished part.